up and stay tuned. I hope you enjoy episode 7. What is up, peeps? We are here today at episode number 7 of Dance, Biz, and Cafecito. I am particularly excited today because, as you can see, we have two amazing people. If you can't see, you need to just stay tuned and listen up, because they're doing all sorts of hand gestures to the camera. They're so animated. So I'm really excited because I have the amazing Sophie and John Jeffrey in the house. And thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, definitely.
I was putting on my microphone voice, if you haven't noticed. We appreciate you having us over here, Sonja Edel, Sonja _Edel.
Sonja _Edel. Oh my God. Well, I really wanted to have you guys on the cast because, one, I know you for so many years, even though John, Jeffrey, and Sophie are originally from Miami, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Born and raised.
Yeah, they're now living in LA, and our relationships in friendships and life actually became a reality or came to life when we were all living in LA. And it's crazy to like see where you guys are at today. So I kind of wanted to get into that story, and that's why I brought you on.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. Whoever wants to start, Sophie, since you're right here, ladies first.
Okay.
I would love to the crowd to kind of hear like who you are, what you're about, what you're doing, or not what you're doing. We say that for later.
Lots
but
of stuff.
Who are you?
I like to call myself a chameleon. So I am whatever I decide to be at any moment of any given day.
Interesting.
Yeah, just because, I like to dabble in a couple different things. Of course, I have my focus. Right now, I am focusing a lot more on action acting and stunts. Kind of basing movement from dance and kind of just taking a step further and like testing my body to see what I am capable of doing.
Dope.
Yeah.
And how did it all start though? Like what did you do first? Did you start? Because I know you as a dancer, right? Like when we first met, we were both dancers in Miami, just trying to do our thing, get booked. But is that where it really started, or did you just like stumble upon it? Because I know you have all your flexibility stuff too. So like, what was first? Where did it all begin?
It was when listen, the distraction is so real right now.
We should have drank the coffee earlier because like I feel like I want it to be more hot.
Yeah. Oh, I got tea, so I'm good.
I know you got that fresh tea while we waited with our coffee.
Dang. So honestly, everything started as a kid, as I feel like a lot of things do for artists.
Yeah.
So when I was little, I loved watching action movies, and I think what hit it off the most, John and I have this conversation a lot, was Charlie's Angels.
Oh my God, really?
So I saw Charlie's Angels, and I was like, oh, this is so badass. I want to like be able to do stuff like that. But I never actually did anything of that because I was doing dance, and that's where my heart was. My heart will always be with dance. So I would kind of went through the dance route, and then it wasn't really until I moved to LA was when I started kind of broadening my eyes and kind of seeing a little bit more of what I can do and what's available. And so that's kind of where my journey started. So it started when I was little, and then I kind of like fell off a little bit, and I was just really focusing on dance, but it's all movement, right? And we're all like, we have our own colors, we have our own faces and our own character of whatever we want to do as artists. I feel like artists have so many different faces that we're not just a dancer, or we're not just a clown, or we're not just a singer. We're not, it's not, I mean, not that if that's all you're doing, I don't want to say just because that's not the best word. But when you're an artist, you do so many different things, and you have a lot of different things under your belt. Sometimes you know it, sometimes you don't. So that's always been in me, but it never really came out until I was an adult.
Yeah, I think something that you said really stood out to me, that it doesn't matter like what creative journey you're on. Creatives kind of have this natural skill to become good at a lot of things. And because we're creative, like our mind can quickly change from one thing to the other and allow us to play different hats. So that's actually something that's been coming up a lot throughout the episodes with different people. It's like, being somebody that is able to become good at a lot of things, how do you decide what to focus on or zone in and you know, develop that particular skill? Or how do you decide what it is that you truly love? You know, it's funny that like you started pursuing dance, but always had this like love for something, and like a key moment, like watching a movie or something, can really awaken like your love or your passion or your desire to want to become better at that thing. You know, it's funny that you like waited, and then your life kind of like put itself in a situation where you're like, all right, I feel like now it's time. Let me zone in on this thing and now start getting better at this and see where that journey can lead me.
Yeah, a lot of it is about timing.
For sure.
And I say this all the time, every 7 years, our chemical makeup as a human being is completely different. So in 7 years, you are a completely different version of Sonja. So whatever you decide or choose to be in 7 years can be whatever you want it to be. And you're not the same person as you were 7 years ago. Literally every single thing in our bodies, like every fiber, it changes. So I think that's the cool thing. And then when you're an artist, I feel like that's even more enhanced.
It's for sure. I was going to say that. It definitely is enhanced. Or at least you're more sensitive to the fact that like I am evolving as a person.
Right.
And my desires are changing. And with that, it's so easy to lose focus too. Like how you said, like, okay, dance is always inside of me, right? And that's always going to be there. You're not going to ignore it because it's one of your loves. But you do, like, you did want to start zoning in on something else, you know? That's dope. When did you, this is like a selfish question. Okay. When did you figure out, like, okay, I'm in Miami, right? Like, when was that key moment that you realized, like, I want to move to LA? And what made you make that decision?
So a year before I graduated college, I visited LA. There was an audition. It was a Justin Bieber audition. And I was like, I remember this. Oh my God. And it was like this huge cattle call audition. But I was like, I just want to go. I've never been. I want to check it out and just see the scene. I don't know why, but I've always known that I wanted to live in California. Like, I didn't have a specific reason. It wasn't until I physically went and I went to the audition and I danced, and then I also went hiking, kind of explored a little bit more of California itself as well, is when I kind of fell into it and I just saw so much growth. And immediately I was like, I don't want to leave. But, of course, my mom was like, well, let's try to be a little bit more reasonable. You only have one more year of school left. Let's finish. Like, there are a lot of things that you need to kind of finish up with your own packaging before you can kind of go out and just do something spontaneous with that. And usually, for the most part, I can be pretty spontaneous and be like, you know what? F it, like, I'm just going to go and do this. But I'm actually really glad that she kind of, like, made me a little bit more level-headed. So I finished school. So that whole entire year, I was just like, I can't wait to move. I know this is what I'm going to do. I know this is where I'm going to go. And it wasn't just for dance, because I've always known that I wanted to do a lot of other things as well, too, because when I was growing, I've always been a performance hog. Yeah, we're going in real quick. I've always been a performance hog. And as much as I loved dancing and I've loved, touring for other artists and doing music videos and doing things like that, I didn't like being in the background. I felt like I was a background dancer, and I never liked that because I was like, I want to be the artist. Like, I'm a performance hog.
Yeah, like you love being in the spotlight. It's okay to admit it.
Right. Yeah. It's like in regular human normal interaction life, like I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I don't want to, take away too much attention. But if there's a camera or if there's like music or there's a stage, it is on. Like, it's over. Sophie friggin' So Cookin' comes out to play this little kitty. So, and that's where I saw LA was like, I just felt kind of stuck in Miami a little bit. And of course, like, no matter where you go, there's always room for growth, because that's kind of like based on you, and it's like a decision and choice that you make. But at that point in my life, I didn't know how much more I could grow being in Miami. So I was like, I need to get out. I need to go somewhere else. And so that's where I also decided LA was a place, because I'm also spoiled with warm weather. And it's, even though it was like snowing there 2 weeks ago or last week.
Wait, it snowed in LA?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. We were
Oh
like,
my
whoa.
God. Yeah, the world is changing, man. Y'all better, Puerto Rico's next. No, but I love it that you took the conversation here, because I've been kind of getting in and out of this topic in each episode, but especially since the podcast new and people don't really know what's up or my story or whatever. But the whole point of me starting this podcast is because of something that you said that I think is really key. Like, I feel like, one, dancers, and not only dancers, but creative people, the way that I see it from my experience is they always have so much more to offer than what they think. And at least in the beginning phases, like there's very few people, like, let's say like you guys are a really good example of this. My journey's kind of like that as well, where you always had something inside you that told you that you're meant to do more. So therefore you always had the desire to want to explore and dab into more things and newer things, because you just had that in you. You were self-aware, you were in tune with who you are to some sort of level. But then by exploring and following that gut feeling, you were able to tap into like what you really can do. And we're still on that journey, of course. But I feel like, one, the whole point of this podcast is to help people get there and have that moment of self-awareness a lot faster than what they would if they weren't to hear these conversations or just open up their mindset in different ways. And two is, there's something inside of me that has always been there, that I see that Miami has a lot more to offer than what we know it to be, right? And that situation where you just described, you're like, I think I reached my peak in this market. Therefore, for me to continue expanding myself as an artist and a person, I think I need to be exposed to a bigger amount of opportunities or whatever it is. You identified that, and a lot of people do, and that's why they leave. Like, to be honest, that's why I left Puerto Rico. Like, at 15 years old, I had already been on world tour. I was part of the first group of dancers that were getting paid to dance for any artist with Daddy Yankee at 15. And it's like, okay, I never even thought I could do this, and now I'm like at the top of the game in my teens. Like, what else is there to do if you already reached the top at such a young age? So I think it's important to be able to open up those opportunities here for people that are here, and maybe they don't have to leave one day. You know, obviously I'm realistic with the fact that right now we're not there, but in the last 10 years, in the last, like, when did you leave? What year?
2013.
Yeah, me too. 13. Yeah, 13 is, we left around at the same time. Yeah. I think a few months apart.
Yeah,
like,
I was like August 2013.
Yeah, I don't remember what month. I think it was before the summer for me. I don't remember. But anyway, I think that a lot has changed since that time. A lot in Miami. Like, now there's a whole bunch of dancers that are getting booked as paying dancers. There's a whole bunch of artists coming here to book touring dancers. There's a lot of more opportunities than there were before. But if we got there in this short amount of time, imagine what we can do if all of us as a community come together to lay out a path for more opportunities, or just us be able to offer more as creatives, so people have more people have more desire to come here,
right?
You know, and like give us the opportunities.
Yeah. And it's also important for people to know and understand their value as well too.
Yes.
Because I think especially in Miami, people don't, and I'm guilty for this, and that's another big reason why I moved, was because I didn't know my value. Obviously I knew I was valuable and I knew I had a certain amount of potential, but I didn't know how much, and I needed to kind of go somewhere else to expand that, to really learn and understand, like, oh no, I'm not just a disposable dancer. Yeah. I am XYZ. And I think a lot of people in Miami, because we can be a little bit enclosed and we have been limited a lot in the entertainment industry, that we get boxed in a little bit. And so just kind of seeing the growth in Miami just from 2013 till now is awesome. So I hope that it just keeps expanding and people really understand and know their value and are able to kind of fight for themselves and not have like someone else have to fight for them and be like, hey, well, I can do it.
Exactly. Like, what about me?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and not knocking down like the opportunity or the journey of moving somewhere else. Like, definitely don't want to take away any value behind that, because for me, like in my personal experience, having traveled to a bunch of different places in the world, having lived in different places, having working in different industries in different places, that's what really opened up my eyes to see my true value or my true potential of what I could achieve. And being here, I would have never been exposed to all those opportunities, but being everywhere is what really opened that up for me. So for sure, traveling, going somewhere else, getting knowledge in different places, that's always going to help unlock your mindset at some sort of level, you know?
And I think too, it's okay to live somewhere else and then go back to your hometown. Like, it's not looked down upon. If you're gonna, let's say you want to move to New York and you're doing your thing, you're like, all right, cool, I got what I needed to out of New York, but now I know what I need to do to smash it in Miami.
Yep.
Cool, go and do that. And I feel like a lot of people kind of also have that fear when they do move away. They don't want to move back to Miami or back to their hometown.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're a failure.
Right, exactly.
I love what you're saying. Like, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Even let's say you are a failure. That's not the worst thing in the world. You failed at something. Go back, get your shit together, figure out a new way to go about it, and go do it again. Like not to knock down any of that. Like, everyone has their own journey, their own experiences, and that for sure is what gets you to figure out who you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah, and as long as you learn and grow from that.
For sure.
And also you have to think.
Oh, he's here. Oh, he's here.
Well,
wait.
I mean, you girls were dropping gems, you know.
He's like, I can't.
There was no reason to cut you off. I mean, you guys were flowing, and I mean, you know, so much truth. But in the sense of failure in whose eyes?
For sure, man.
So if you're talking about the idea of, well, I'm going to travel to another country, another city, et cetera, you've learned, and I mean, I'm the same way. I'm so grateful for my travel. Number one thing I would recommend to anyone in any field is travel, because you learn more about yourself, about other countries, about the stigmas of other places when you get out of your comfort zone and travel. So
travel by yourself.
The idea of failure in whose eyes?
Yep.
Right? So in the fact that you say, or, you know, for the fact, or the idea that someone can say, oh, you failed because you came back. It's like, oh, you have no idea how much I've learned and what I've picked up along that journey. So how did I fail? If anything, you failed because you decided not to leave. You were afraid to leave. So if I go to New York for a year, or California, or Costa Rica, or Egypt, or a completely different part of the world that I never thought existed, the cultures, the experiences, everything that you learn and pick up along the way, how is that a failure? You know, there's no borders on earth. There's, you know, these man-made idea of like, you have to stay here, and this is what success means, or that equates success if you have certain luxuries. In whose eyes are you determining what your definition of success is? Family? Friends? Relationships? I don't go off of that, right? Number one thing to me is self-awareness, right? So I something that I heard from Gary Vee, and he talks about being self-aware, and I absolutely agree with that when he brought that up, that he just wished more people were self-aware, right? Because my idea of to travel and lack of material things, that to me is success. It's an amazing life that I feel that I've lived. So anyone to say you left and gained experience, that's an absolute win. You won.
Yeah, and I think it's all about is like what you're saying is it's all about perspective,
100%.
right? Because for me, like, I can relate to your guys' experiences. Like, I traveled a bunch of places, I did a lot of things. I wasn't always, let's say, quote unquote, successful in every single thing. But for me, I never took it as me being a failure if something didn't work out. That only fueled me to want to know more or try more or whatever. Because for me, it was always like, okay, I tried this, I did this, I learned this. Now let me figure out what's next. Not like oh my God, I feel like such a failure. Like for me, I never thought that way. So I think what you're saying is there's a key aspect in there about like, it's all about how you look at things, man.
And everyone has a different definition of success.
For sure.
So who is someone else to tell you, oh, you didn't make it? Well, you have no idea what my definition of success is. And you also don't know what my potential is. So, much love to people that say, hey, congrats, you're doing amazing. But no thank you, because you're limiting it. There's some limit to whatever mental idea you think I'm supposed to be at. You don't know my potential. So you don't know if I'm doing well or not, because my potential could be so much more, and this is just the surface. So again, I have love for friends and family that encourage you when they say, hey, we see you doing great. But again, you don't know what my potential is. I may just be getting started. This may just be the beginning. And whatever level that you just kind of came on to see my either my ups or my downs, this may just be the beginning of the story. This may just be the start of the chapter, and there's a whole nother journey that's coming.
Yeah,
for sure.
Everything is a stepping stone for a greater path that's meant for you and nobody else.
I love both of your philosophical perspectives on everything.
We have conversations like this all the time.
Well, one of my
Wait! Before you keep going, nobody knows who you are at this point. But so I'm sure a bunch of people are like, "This guy has a lot to say. I wonder what his background is, man."
Strange
like,
man
who is
speaking.
He? Can you please describe? I'm gonna go and adjust your volume, but can you please tell us like who you are? When did it all start? What are you doing? Like,
oh, that's powerful. That is a powerful question. I'm simply the man behind the women over here. That's all I am.
That's right. Okay.
Behind these goddesses
this podcast is about us.
right now. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. More power to the women. The future is female. 100%.
You're just trying to get on the good list.
I'm like, I like it.
just gotta throw it out there. Women run the world. Hooty hoo.
Oh my God.
I don't know what just happened.
A little bit about myself. What's up, guys? My name is John Jeffrey. Born and raised in Miami, Florida. What can I say? To me, it all goes back to prior to dance, prior to.
You dance.
I do dance. I do. But like you girls were saying, as an artist, we do so much. So as I go back, number one thing for me, my lineage, my family history is we're clowns. So
Crazy.
Professional clowns.
I actually forgot about this story. This is dope.
Many people do. So my uncle, my mother, my father, my brother, my cousins. So we come from a clown family. So that's our family business.
Crazy, yeah.
So
rare to find something like that.
Yeah. So the idea of anything within the arts always goes back to I was raised by clowns. This is the family history. That was a family business. It wasn't stocks. It wasn't real estate. It wasn't anything else outside of clowns and everything that encompasses the tent and underneath the tent, right? Damn. So I always go back to the idea of being an artist. So if anyone has some sort of idea of where they know me from or what they believe,
they don't.
Or what they think that I do.
Cue the dramatic music.
Yeah, so it all stems from being a clown, from being an artist. So that's why my mentality is never limited to, and then you fill in the blank. It always goes back to, well, I'm an artist. I can start, restart, fail, and there is no such thing as failure in my sense, right? Kind of scratch and burn and a new idea, because I'm an artist.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm never afraid to fail because I'm an artist. I'm learning something new. So dance.
I'm like,
so
what happened
dance,
after?
dance comes in way later in my life. Dance started maybe 15 years after I was born. So from birth all the way to 15 was all arts, was clowns, was balloons and face painting and festivals and travel, all in that sense. And then at 15 is when I started breaking. So
Shout
quote
out to
unquote,
all the breakdancers.
yeah, to all the B-boys, the hip hop culture out there.
There you go.
If you don't know, so breaking media term is break dance.
Woo!
We don't use that, but so after 15 years old to now, dance just kind of shifted everything. So breaking, hip hop kind of shifted the whole direction.
Damn.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And now we are here. So there's
Now we are here.
Yeah. So a lot has happened since then.
But okay, so how did you end up from a b-boy in Miami to what are you now? A photographer / social media influencer / in LA? Like what happened in between there?
All of the above.
Check.
So unlike most people, I never cared about LA. That was never on the radar. I was never one of those to say, oh, I want to go to LA. I want to be famous. I want to be behind an artist. I want to go on a tour. That was never the idea. That was never the goal. I love Miami, being born and raised in Miami. Miami has so much culture. I've learned so much because of Miami that I thought I would never leave. That to me, I was like, okay, Miami is perfection.
Like that.
Yeah, Theo Pacha like that. You name it.
And now he's like 818 till you die.
Yeah. So
Just kidding.
Within that journey,
Beat up.
LA was just kind of something that happened, and I just kind of went with the flow. And
Okay.
I was okay with the direction that life was taking me. 2015, I was able to shoot some featured films in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
Which was very, very powerful. And for a moment, I thought I was moving to Atlanta. There was so much happening in Atlanta. Atlanta is such a diverse, and there's so much that's going on in Atlanta, especially at that time, that I thought, okay, Atlanta, that might be the move. And having a conversation with two of my close friends, Robert Bell and Anthony, which is Bboy Omen and Bboy Phantom, having a conversation, and we kind of decided we were going to make the move.
Shout out to B-Boy and B-Boy Phantom.
Yeah, shout out to two of my close friends. So as the clock kept ticking, and it just kind of came closer to the end of the year, we had decided we were going to take a drive to LA, and we were just going to pack up everything and move.
Wow.
Last minute, it ends up becoming Phantom and I. We take this 12-day amazing tour, road trip all throughout the country, going from Miami all the way to California, making amazing stops in between. And now 4 years later, here I am in LA.
Damn. So what are you up to now? What do you guys? Okay, now let's get into this conversation. So what's happening in your life today?
Woo, we living life.
We living life. We living life.
So obviously we have our focus, which is our career and all of that, but being in California, there's just so much that we can do and that's available. So this guy just chugged his coffee.
John Jeffrey chugging.
More coffee.
Chug coffee.
I have more. You want more?
Oh, she makes it good.
Shout
can heat
out
it
to
up.
Sonja. She makes some delicious coffee.
Thank you.
Cafe Bustelo sponsorship. Just throwing it out there.
Is that
Cafe Sonjita.
Yo, y'all know, what if I come up with my own coffee brand?
Oh, go,
yeah.
girl.
Oh, yeah.
You could get some labeled mugs.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
You see?
Throwing it out there for
This
whoever's
is the
watching.
biz part of the
Yeah.
podcast. Where we come
Marketing.
up with ideas.
Marketing 101. It is the brainstorming session first.
Well, definitely going on the business thing. I think that's one thing that most artists kind of.
Pointed at the camera.
I think
Sidetracking
that's
so much.
something that more artists should be aware of. The business
sure.
aspect of it, right? Because as an artist myself, for a long time, I just kind of wanted to take the back burner on the business side and say, no, I'm just the artist. I just want to create. Just kind of leave me alone. And
Just kind of leave me alone.
yeah,
Yo, but I can relate to that.
And I've
Sure, a lot of people
realized,
can too.
now that is completely the wrong mindset. You have to be fully involved and understanding the business aspect more, if anything, if not equal, then maybe a little more than your art, simply because you don't want to get caught in the back burner and then things happen without your understanding, without your knowledge, and then you're just kind of left in the shadow.
Yeah, I think it never hurt nobody to. I think it never hurt nobody.
I think it never hurt
to
nobody.
just really have the knowledge, right? The same way, like for example, like in the hip hop culture, like Sam talked a lot about respect to the culture when we did the Unmuted episode, because Sam and JP, they're both part, like they're both b-boys, they're part b-boy b-girl, yeah, part of the hip hop culture, and there's a lot within that culture that I respect. when it comes to being knowledgeable. Like that's definitely a part of the culture. And I think in general, a lot of dancers outside of I'm just going to go ahead and call it underground community, because a lot of commercial dancers see it that way, right? So for the sake of everyone understanding, like when you're a freestyler, when you're a b-boy, when you do breakdancing, there's a whole other aspect that your training, like the mindset for your training is taken upon, right? When you're a commercial dancer, you just think it's about show and choreo for the most part. But then there's that tipping point that happens, and it's when the knowledge kicks in, right? So I think nobody ever got hurt from knowing. Like if you get educated when it comes to business, whatever that means to you, business can be anything from handling money to handling a conversation
to handling a contract.
Like it could be anything, to handling your brand and how you talk about your brand, because that's PR and communications.
Absolutely.
Like just getting educated in any part of the business is only going to benefit you at some point in your career or in your life.
Absolutely.
And
also understanding that you yourself, you are the brand.
Exactly. You are the business as a creative, especially nowadays. We talked about exposure in one of the episodes with Annalise, who's this like child prodigy, and now she's huge on social media only through just handling her brand in a very smart way with her Instagram, you know? So it's like nowadays we have it's so easy to get exposure. Like it's so easy to get exposure, and exposure can lead to business and money. You just have to understand and get knowledgeable, educate yourself on how do I navigate this world in a way that's benefiting me. And honestly, that's why I wanted to invite you guys on the podcast, because I feel like both of you have done a really good job at managing your brand. And that has opened up so many doors. I really want to talk about that.
I mean, business is actually kind of the opposite of John. I've always loved business. I studied business in school, and it's always kind of been a passion of mine, as well as obviously the art and all of that. But I think as an artist, it's also important to know that you need to have multiple streams of income. And when you have a regular 9-to-5 job, most of the time you have the benefits, you have the 401k and all that, which is great. But as artists, since we are our own brand, we got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well. So for example, even if it's something like, as soon as I hit 25, I like years before I hit 25, and I was like 20 or 21 or something like that, I was like, okay, when I'm 25, I'm going to open up a retirement account just for myself. So once 25 hit, the day after my birthday, I opened up a retirement account, and now every month a certain amount of money goes in and all of that. And so I'm good with that. I've been getting into stocks lately, lots of stocks. And there was a point when we got really heavy into like Bitcoin and just investing in things like that, whether it's property, or if you don't have enough money to buy property, to have a down payment on a house, like you can invest like $100 in stocks and just hold on to it. Like we were just researching Amazon, I think back in 2000 was like $2 or $3, and now it's like almost $2,000.
Wow.
Like it's like just about $2,000. So I mean, yeah, that's within a 20-year period, but let's say you're 30 now, when by the time you're 50 and you buy 100 stocks of Amazon, like you know, it's like it adds up. And so as artists, it's also important to know that yes, have your art and love and hone your craft always, because that's where your heart is going to be. But at the end of the day, you are also a business. So if you're not investing in yourself,
mentally, physically,
like
spiritually,
financially,
everything,
then it's like you're just gonna end, like you don't want to end up just living with you in your mom's basement. And I mean, if you want to do that, that's
that
amazing.
makes you
like
happy, then,
like
for
not
sure.
knocking on that at all. But if you want to be stable on your own, it's important to realize that there is a lot more outside of artistry, and business go hand in hand, and it's really important to do your research on that.
Yeah.
I definitely, for me, as an artist, and I've viewed myself as an artist from the beginning, and that idea of, because I'm an artist, it's just sky's the limit, right? There are no limitations. So within that, they got to a point that there was just so much obsession.
Obsession?
I was obsessed.
With
everything what? Within myself as an artist. And the idea that anything that I wanted to do, it was done. The moment I set my mind to it, it was like, okay, it's done. Because I'm an artist and because I view artists as the top, there's nothing more than an artist to me. And I think as an artist, we're so powerful. And if you can just like tap into that and have that understanding of, as an artist, wherever you put yourself, right, in any sort of position, you can excel. And that's how I viewed myself from a very young age. So there was never any limitation. And then I was just obsessed with anything that I wanted to do, whether it was the spiritual, the financial, the physical, the mental. The mindset to me is number one. If I have any conversation with anyone that knows me truly knows that I go back to the mind, the mindset, the morning habits, my morning rituals, because I got to a point that I was like, oh, okay, cool. If no one's going to believe in this, I will believe in this. If no one's going to believe in me, I will believe in me. And I think that is a very powerful tool that any artist can tap into. The idea of, if I can see it, if I can believe it, and if I can believe it enough, then it's here. You know, so I encourage for anyone, any artist, be obsessed. Obsession is key. You know, and then for
I
anyone,
never heard that perspective on this conversation before. It's interesting. It's interesting because I'm making fun of myself. It's interesting because I've never heard anyone position it in that way, where it's like, okay, if I become obsessed at this and, you know, educate myself, study it, train it, however it is. But that's what obsession is, right? When you can't stop thinking about that one thing and you're just going after it from every angle possible, there's no other result that's going to come out except you're going to succeed 100%. At it. Unless the only other like thing that can happen is like you discover, maybe I'm not as good as this as I would like to be or thought I could be, and this is not my thing. But no matter what, you're going to get good at it because you pursued it fully.
But even that, to me, is a success. If I can tell you what I don't like, that's as powerful or more powerful than telling you what I am good at, because I can tell you what I don't want. If I can sit here and tell you, no, I am not engaging in any of those things, that's a powerful position to be at, because you know what you don't want. So knowing what you don't want is equally as powerful as knowing what you do want. And for anyone in that in between, if you can say, no, I don't like to go out, no, I don't like to smoke, no, I don't like to drink, no, I don't want to just be foolish with my money, that's a powerful position, because then you know what to eliminate, and then that kind of gives you a position to know what you want to focus on.
You're setting yourself up only to succeed by being able to identify those things and say it, and for sure. Actually, it's crazy because I'm trying to pinpoint, okay, when have I done these things? Have I ever done that? And I never explained it or thought of it in the way that you're describing it, but that's something that was actually really key. And any time that I've been successful for me, what I define success at anything, I've been able to go, okay, I don't like doing this. I suck at this. I already tried that. It didn't work because I did this and this and this wrong. Okay, what do I need to do to have more free time? I'm going to eliminate going out, eliminate spending money, eliminate blah, 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 blah. But me being able to say, these are all the things that I'm not good at or I don't want to do or don't need to do, that was my recipe to make something happen. Like, in the end, that's crazy. Yeah. Philosophers. Philosophy 101. Dance philosophy 101, guys.
And and earlier you brought up focus and how a lot of dancers or artists, they have a tendency to maybe lose focus because there's a lot of things that they're into or interested in doing. But I think it's
I got something for that, definitely.
Yeah, but I think it's also important to realize and understand that it's okay to not be focused on one specific thing, because that's how you learn and you grow. Like, I feel like you're a pretty good example at that, you know? Like, you lived in New York, you lived in LA, and then you were doing so many different things. Like, when you were in LA, you were doing so many different things, and maybe you didn't have one specific focus, but all of those things were a stepping stone to know, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Sure. And you're like, oh, I'm going to take all of these little gems that I've got and I'm going to go to Miami and smash it. And I'm going to try to expand the opportunities for dancers and artists out in Miami and to speak to people. And
what are you doing? I can't. With the animations in the background.
The distractions.
No,
he's doing the live entertainment for all the viewers. While Sophie entertains the listeners.
the speaking aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
agree.
okay.
But that's
to,
definitely how I see it.
right.
For sure.
It's okay to not have one focus right now, because at the end of the day, you will have that focus. You will have that specific thing that you want to continue to work on in the future or somewhere down the line, as long as you know your own work ethic and you're working towards it and you're experiencing and learning what you do and don't like or want.
Yeah. I don't remember who I heard said this, but it always stuck with me. I think it was Tom Billieu, since we were talking about him offline. We all worked at Quest Nutrition together. It's crazy. All my guests, I'm like, so we worked together in this, remember?
Yeah.
Shout out to Tom.
Shout out to Tom Billieu.
Huge fan over there. Huge fan.
Killing it out there.
Oh, yeah.
They are actually part of the reasons why I got inspired to do this. And once I figured out what I wanted to talk about and stuff. But anyway, off topic. Going back on topic. I forgot what I was saying.
So guys, it's okay to lose focus for a little bit, but make sure you get back on track.
Make sure you get back on track and don't completely lose focus. Oh, okay, I remember.
See, there you
Thank
go.
you, Sophie.
I got you.
No, somebody said this and it stood out with me. I think it was Tom. It's like once you know what are the things that you're great on, focus on those. And once you know what are the things that you're not great at, eliminate them or get other people to do them. So you can focus on the things that you're great at and keep developing those skills. I'm sure that's not how they said it, but that's what I took from it. And it really stuck to me because going back to what you said, like I haven't really thought about it this way before, but the fact that I tried so many things throughout my life is what gave me the ability to go, I love this, I don't like this, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. And then all those things coming together led to me starting Unmuted Brand, which is like my company now, my podcast, I don't know, picking up photography and realizing like, oh shit, I could really get good at this if I tried. Like it led me to all decisions that are now shaping literally what my life is. Crazy, man. Crazy.
There's a quote by Steve Jobs that I love, absolutely love. I might this might be completely wrong.
Please don't butcher it.
Definitely not verbatim, but he says, in life you could only connect the dots looking backwards. So you can't connect the dots looking forward in life. If you try to, as hard as you can in the next 5, 3, 10 years, whatever it may be, it's impossible to know why things happen and how things are going to happen. But when you look back in life, that's where you can connect the dots. And that's something that I find so powerful because I think back from day one, from my family, the lineage within that, from growing up, the decisions and the moments in my life where I felt extremely lost, saddened, crying, in a moment of despair, crying out to God, praying and just saying, why am I going through all this? Why is all this happening? I feel talented. I'm working really hard. Hard work pays, right? Those moments of like, that's what they tell me, that hard work pays, and I'm working really hard, and why isn't anything happening? And I look back now, and I'm so grateful for all those ups and downs because I connect those dots, and I'm like, oh, I remember why that happened, and I remember why this happened, and this connected to that, and that led to this, and I was able to meet her or meet him, and this opportunity, and I've learned, and I fast forward my life now, present moment, and I'm extremely grateful for those ups and downs. I'm extremely grateful for those moments that I thought I was lost because I wasn't lost. I was early in the process. Shout out to Gary Vee, and I've learned so much from within that.
Makes sense.
It all starts to connect, and now. Present day, when I'm in certain situations, I'm like, oh, I know this. I've already gone through this. I've already been here. I know why. I know why I went through that moment because I was able to develop and sharpen my knives at that moment that I'm using now. And I'm engaging in these moments, and that's why I went through that, and that's why I went through those ups and downs, and that's why I felt lost, because now it all connects. And I'm so grateful. If I'm grateful for anything in my life, I am extremely grateful for the struggle. The struggle is what made me. I would not be where I am, the mentality, the mindset, and again, my mind, what I see, what I vision, what I tell myself, that is so sharp because of those ups and downs that I would never, ever try to discredit anything that I went through as a child, as a young adult. Those moments of when they would question me and say, what are you going to do in 10 years? And how are you going to make money as an artist? And all these like very tough questions as a young kid or as a teenager, as early 20s, that I wasn't able to answer. But now I look back and I'm like, oh man, those questions are so easy to answer now. I can tell you a million things and outlets and, you know, how to leverage social media or the resources that we have now that I wasn't aware of, that we just didn't have 10, 15 years ago. And those moments that you look back and you start to connect those dots, that's why you shouldn't question anything.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to learn how to enjoy the process. Like that for me.
As corny as that sounds, and we see it on
does.
social media all the time.
It sounds corny,
true.
but at the end of the day,
That's
like
true.
if you don't enjoy the process, that's it. You're sending yourself up to success. You're going to be depressed. Because getting great or achieving anything is not supposed to be easy. Like, and it sounds corny. It sounds cliche. It sounds like you've read it on 1,000 quotes on Instagram.
But there's 1,000 of those quotes on Instagram because it's true.
Because it's all thousands of people's experience of them going through tough shit and coming out of it with the learnings and the experiences, like us right here. But yeah, it is. And it sounds cliche, but it's funny how many people I know that complain about the process every single day, right? And in the dance community, it's so hard. Actually, it's so easy to think like, but this person just started dancing and all they do is post all these amazing videos and they're getting booked. You don't know, like they weren't posting them busting their ass for 10 hours a day, freestyling in their backyard, going to rehearsals from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., going to class from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., going to rehearsal from 10 a.m. to 5. Like they're not posting the process of them crying and suffering and going through injuries and all that shit. Like, yes, some people, a very small amount of them get it easy. A very small amount of them do get it easy. Like, they just get lucky. Right place, right time, whatever. But they must have been talented at some sort of level for them to get there, you know? But those that, I think the people that have longevity with their success, they're the ones that have really, like, gone through the process and the journey, and they talk about struggles and everything they've had to surpass in life or go through or whatever, and learning to enjoy all of that and understand that it takes all that shit for you to end up somewhere good. Then it makes it easier for you to live through it every day and not end up crying and suffering and whatever, you know, on a daily or on a regular basis.
So key, learn to enjoy the process. Because the journey or the process, that's where the real treasures lie. And on top of that, as any artist across the board, regardless of the field that you're in, learn to put out, to post, to share, to not be afraid of the failures within the road to success. Because those moments of I'm failing shows that you're not afraid to start again. It shows that, hey, I'm not perfect, and there was a lot of time and mistake and error that went into this, but here we go, right? And that's a beautiful thing to see someone at the beginning stages of their masterpiece. That's a beautiful thing. If we could go back and everyone that we admire, if we could see their beginning stages,
and
I think
all
we
the
would
milestones of like,
I
damn,
think we
and that
would
led
be
them to this
very
and that.
encouraged.
Yeah.
I think we would see the struggle and the fails and say, wow, they weren't perfect. That's amazing. And I think that's why we should encourage everyone around us, especially artists, because I know it's hard to kind of, you know, want to be perfect and only show the finished product and show the perfection, but show the struggle. Like, hey, I'm still trying to get to that point. And then when I do get to that point, it's so much more satisfying because I gave up, because I sacrificed so much to get there.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, I made it. It's like, hey, you guys have been with me since the beginning. You know
what I've been through.
Yeah, how beautiful
And
is
everyone
that
has
moment.
their journey. Everyone
Absolutely.
definitely has their journey. So I feel like, especially all of us as artists, it's kind of like a facade of judgment. Like we'll pretend or like kind of laugh, you know, somebody will laugh at a person like, oh, they're not, they suck, or they're whatever, blah, blah, blah. But deep down we know, like, no, everybody has gone through their shiznat. and that's just the way it is. And I think that it is also very important for everybody to be more verbally understanding towards each other, especially us as artists, because we are creating our own path, paving our own way, and a lot of times people get lost, and that's okay, and then you kind of find yourself, and I think that's a kind of going back to Miami, because I know we're trying to like come into the hub, you know, because that's where the base is right now, and I think that's kind of where a lot of our Miami hometown peeps struggle with, because it's like they want to leave and like find their path, but then it's scary because then they don't want to fail, but then they think like, oh, if we leave and then we got to stay there, we got to stay where we go. No, it's okay to come back. Or they just don't want to leave at all. And I mean, that's okay too. You can go and divide and conquer and do what you got to do. But if you're going to just stay here and then kind of sulk in your room, you're like, oh, I'm 35 and I haven't had a quote unquote successful artist, dance career, choreographer, whatever career that you have as an artist, that's on you.
Yeah, and I think if you get to that point, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the only thing left to do is internalize how you ended up there and what is there left to do for you to get the results that you think you should have gotten at that point, right? Is it you didn't train enough, you didn't put in enough time, I don't know, you weren't a nice person, like at that point, like if you feel like you've exercised all of your opportunities or all of your options of things that you could have done, it's time to look inside and kind of see, like you said, it's on you, right? Like look within you and be honest with yourself to figure out like what exactly led you there and what can you do differently? What happened to get out of it?
I was looking inside myself.
He was
looking down his shirt.
He's like, yeah, myself.
Yeah, and it's like it's okay to put on a lot. I feel like I'm super guilty of this, and I'm learning. He knows I'm learning to like not always have a happy face on, because it's not always all like unicorns and cotton candy all the time, and sometimes that's how you get. You get people to kind of understand you a little bit more, to be more relatable, because that's all fake. Like nobody is happy 24/7. Okay, wait, let me take that back. I am happy 24/7, but there are times that although I'm very happy in my state, there are times that I'm like, oh, I'm sad or I'm upset, but it doesn't mean that I'm an unhappy person. It just means that in that point in time, I'm going through something, right? And that's cool. And sometimes you gotta let that know to other people, and then maybe they'd be willing to help you. Be like, oh, well, maybe you tried this. Let's try a different way, because it's good to talk to other people, pick other people's brains. You're not alone. You're not alone in this. That's the moral of the story. You're not alone.
What I'm trying to say is,
basically,
you're not alone, bro.
Yeah.
I go back to, so I didn't leave Miami. I lived with my parents, with my mother and my brother, my whole life growing up. And I didn't leave Miami until a very, very late age in what you would consider.
Oh, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about.
I guess,
how
for
old we
most
are?
people. I left to LA at 28. At 28. So I guess for the majority of society at 28, you're established. You've graduated college. You may or may not have one or two kids. There's some sort of stability. You name it. Kind of like these milestones as an adult, as you mature in age. Prior to that, I think everyone around me was very confused because I was all over the place. I would not stick to one thing. But within myself, I was like, no, I'm doing something right. I'm following so many different passions and creative outlets that I was so happy. Happiness, that's my currency, right? From a very young age. But society, friends, and family, not family, let me take that back. The majority of my friends and outside of my home, the moment I would leave out, they would question. They were like, well, you're bouncing all over the place. Like, why, you should stay in one thing and be more stable and seek success within that one outlet. And okay, yes, that does make sense. But for myself as an artist, that didn't make sense. I was like, no, I don't want to just do that. I want to do that and a little bit of this. And hey, I've heard of something else. Let me go try that. So I would try all these flavors. And like how you said, because I experienced so much, and being able to travel, I went and I seeked out everything. Some I enjoyed, others I didn't, and discarded those, and I took what I liked from the ones that I did. But as an artist, I tapped into so many outlets. Now, fast forward, moving to LA, all those, for lack of a better word, all those tools that I kind of picked up along the way and all those knives that I've sharpened along the way, now I'm like, oh, wait, this is where I can use this. So for anyone that feels lost and says, well, I need to focus on one thing to be successful, yes, I agree with that, but I don't think you should limit yourself to, well, I'm not going to try anything else. I'm not going to have any other flavors of the ice cream. I'm just going to stick to this one. I don't believe that. I say you
Exploration should not be looked down upon.
Yeah, I say go explore, learn as much as you can, tap into, again, if it's music, photography, directing, behind the scenes, pre-production, post-production, fashion, styling. There's so many things. And one of my favorite things, if you watch a movie and you stay for the ending credits, this is my favorite thing to do at a movie. I love to stay for the ending credits because you see hundreds of names after that movie. That means that every individual was part of this. It took so much to make this happen. It took so much effort. It took so many bodies to make that possible. So I look at those names and I'm so grateful for everyone that has played a small role or in what you would believe to be a small role, but everyone had an impact to produce that. So never think that your role is too small or it's not important or whatever you're doing is not gonna allow you or kind of just access that road to success, because any film or any project takes multiple people and your name could be anywhere in that list. Pre, post-production, behind the camera, in front of the camera, the main actor, or the production that allows that one singer to sell out a stadium.
Yeah.
Your name could be anywhere on that list.
And kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, I feel like a lot of people kind of make the excuse of age as well. And that's something that I'm like trying to battle with other people, is that age is nothing but a number. Like more than half of the things that I'm currently doing now, I didn't grow up doing that, and they're pretty
Same
physical
for me,
things.
yeah.
And like, for example, with contortion, like I would have never thought that I love it or get into it as much as I have. And I know people that are in their 40s, like early mid 40s, that are professional contortionists, and they didn't start until 30, 35, when usually society or people say like, oh, you should start when you're 8 to 10 years old.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like beating that clock of what other people say and not kind of fitting into that mold and just finding the excuses like, oh, what are you going to do when you're 30? Like, no, it's not. That doesn't exist anymore. We're in a whole new generation.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
I agree with that 100%. I literally just had a conversation today with Sam, my best friend, about age stigmas. And that's one of my favorite topics that Gary Vee always goes into. Like I was telling you guys, I only listen to one podcast, which is crazy because now I have my own podcast. It's like, you only listen to one podcast? For personal knowledge purposes, yes, but for research, I do kind of dabble into other podcasts to see what's up. But going back to the topic of age stigma, one thing that Gary Vee says a lot, that every time he says it, because he says the same thing in a bunch of different ways, it sticks out to me because it gets me to internalize about my age. Like, I'm 31. I think every single episode on this podcast, I've pinpointed that I'm 31 and because I want that to resonate in people's heads. Like, for example, right now, if I decided to, how you said an example of contortion, I'm 31. If I decided to today, I've always wanted to be a contortionist, and my dream, I could become literally, if I just spend the next, let's say, 3 years of my life going to classes almost every single day or time I have available possible, pulling up YouTube at my house and pulling up side exercises I could be doing. Like, this applies to anything, not only contortion, but literally in 3 years, I could be really good.
That's
like
my story.
Exactly. That's literally, I didn't know, but that's literally Sophie's story. Yeah, and if you see like your videos right now on Instagram, like I've seen your journey of like when you started and how much you've been able to accomplish with your body now. And that's just like to prove to you that like your age doesn't matter. It's just a matter of like how hard are you willing to work to get good at something, period. Because, and I believe in this 100% because I've seen anywhere from kids to my mom that's like in her 60s do this. It's just a matter of like, you need to be realistic, right? Are you trying to be the number one contortionist in the world? That's different.
Right.
Sure.
That you need to have been born with a natural talent before you apply your training. Like you're putting in the time to train in that skill set, right? So the people that are able to be the best at something in the world is because something in them was naturally born to just do that.
That was their
and then
path.
they applied their work ethic to become the best. Right? But one doesn't without the other. So if you're not born to be naturally great at something or naturally good, like I was born to just be naturally good dancer without trying. I literally would watch a video and I could literally learn the routine and show it back as a baby, as a kid. Yeah, without me knowing what's happening. It's in your blood, right? You need to be self-aware enough to say, shit, I have a natural thing. Like I'm naturally good at this without trying. Now, apply the work ethic. That's it. You're golden. Doesn't matter how old
you are.
you are. Yeah, like if I wanted to at 35, I could be not the greatest, but really good at whatever it is the heck that I want. If I had the work ethic to, it's crazy, man. I love that.
I truly believe if I can say I have one superpower as an artist in Miami, being born and raised, if I can say, if someone were to ask me what was the one thing, right, what's that thing, I would easily say it was the support of my family. And I've witnessed this through a lot of other artists that growing up, they didn't have that support. And because they didn't have someone to just bounce ideas off of, which I think is very, very crucial. If I say one, you say two. If I say two, you say three. And then this continues to elevate. Because I had the support of my family, that whatever idea, good or bad, I threw at them, they came back with an encouragement. It was never a wall. It was never shut down. It was never, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough. And to me, that's my number one superpower. And I credit my brother extremely. I mean, to the point that I could cry just thinking about the conversations that we would have growing up, because he would say, yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, how is there some sort of doubt or lack of faith? What are you talking about? You see those guys doing it, right? You could do it. And that happened to me once with acting. He's like, wait, you want to be an actor? And I was like, yeah, but I don't really believe it. And he's like, you watch TV every day. What are those guys? He's like, those are actors. He's like, well, that could be you. And we've had so many of those conversations. So my number one superpower would be I had a family that to this day continues to support any idea. When I brought up LA, I mean, obviously my mother was scared, but here we go with the support. My brother, the same thing, and even my close circle of friends, the support was there. I mean, they might have not always understood what I was doing, but my inner circle always supported me. And I think for any, especially being, and this is my number one thing, growing up in Miami, the Latin culture, the Latinx culture, Latin parents, sometimes is very difficult if you say, hey, I want to, and then fill in the blank, and it's something that doesn't really make sense to them, right? If you say you want to be an artist or a singer, or you say something that just kind of doesn't correlate with what their expectations is or are, doctor, lawyer, right? Something
like it's
more
not traditional
financially,
within the culture or whatever.
100%, you don't really get that support system back. So I would encourage anyone to find the circle of encouragement, find a circle of, or if you can't find it, then build it. Build your own circle of like-minded individuals, of artists, of friendships that you can have a conversation, and cool, they may not support, but they can keep it real with you. And say, well, if you want to really be a singer, how much time are you putting in the studio? How much work are you really putting in?
That's so important.
Is it just a talk, or is there action? Right? Because the action, that's what matters. It's not just the whole, I want to do this. It's more of the execution is worship. Eric Thomas, right? So that idea of like, don't just talk about it all day, right? Don't just talk about I want to be a billionaire, I want to make six figures. Like, put in the work. Don't just talk about I want to be an artist. Put in the work that an artist would have to put in any field that you're trying to excel at. So having that support system, creating that support system, if you don't have it, that's crucial.
Yeah. I think this is a great segue into the next question that I had for you guys. Well, because talking about the hard work and putting in the work and all that stuff, I feel like you guys, that's what you've been doing within the last few years out there in LA. And I would love for you to talk about what you're up to today. Like, where has all that work led you to, and kind of where you would like for it to go, or where you see it going within the, near future.
I'll let Sophie go first on
Cool.
this one.
So kind of going back to what I was saying before was that, I didn't really say this, but it kind of came up in conversation, but I got into contortion, and I absolutely love it. I started doing some like random fun creature weird work, which is freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
But that it also has helped with the like action acting and the stunts and all of that. And so my ideal is acting, but I wanted to play very strong female roles. But also with that, I recently launched my brand.
I know, I saw that.
It's called Sona, so Sona. The Instagram is Shop Sona.
If you add a J in there, it's my name.
That's true. Oh, snap, daddy.
So thank you, Sophie, for naming your clothing line almost after me.
I got you, girl. So, I mean, right now, from the outside looking in, it looks like just an... I'm
She's
wearing my shirt.
We're like
wearing my shirt.
outfit.
So I made this shirt.
Yes.
It's not this particular one is not for sale because I've been like experimenting and seeing like what's going on and all that. But from the outside looking in, it looks like an athleisure lifestyle kind of clothing brand. But I want it to be more than that. So similar to Champion, how they hold a bunch of different brands in their stores or online or whatever the case might be. That's where I kind of see Sona. So I want it to be a catalyst for artists and athletes to kind of be able to come in and find their own superpower and present that to the world. So let's say he starts his artist, like he has his painting, he starts painting, right? And he wants to sell his paintings, but he doesn't know where to go, he doesn't know where to start, he doesn't have an audience or a big enough audience to kind of present his work to. I want Sona to be that hub for artists to be able to present whatever their craft is and kind of put it out there. So, I mean, right now, just because I've always been into like fashion and I love movement and like doing the athletics and all of that. So that's what it is right now. But eventually at some point, I want to be able to collab with other artists and other creatives and put their stuff out there so we rise together, right? We can collab and create together and rise together. This guy.
I don't know what's happening.
But so that's Sona, that's my brand.
That's dope. Congrats, man.
Thanks. It's in the works, but all of the other like little stepping stones that I had came into that, and like I've been planning and thinking about it for years. And
that's what I wanted to ask you. Is like, was this always something you wanted to do, or it kind of just like dawned on you that it's a perfect opportunity to explore it?
Yeah, it was just. For years, I had been wanting to do it, but I just didn't know how to, and I didn't know what I wanted to do.
I feel you.
So, and initially, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start it out with just doing clothing and functional athletic wear, and then just branch off of there. And right now, I'm working with one of my friends, Alina. Shout out to Alina. She's an amazing artist, and she started designing things for me, but I would love to get some of her artwork on shirts or on clothing, or even if she wants to sell like an actual piece that people can hang up, like something like that. So that's all in the works. But yeah, kind of going back, I'm like sidetracking. Probably about 4 years ago, I was traveling a lot. There was a point where I was touring for dancing and for hosting as well. And when I was traveling, especially for hosting, I would just like go out and explore by myself. Just I can be pretty introverted at times, so I love to just be by myself and explore on my own. And that's when my brainstorming sessions really started, because I had a lot of alone time, and that was that was amazing. That was like a godsend for me. And so I would come back home to my hotel room, and I would literally just like type up different things of what I wanted to do, of a name of a company that I wanted to put out there, and blah, blah, blah. But nothing was ever right. So I came up with Sona 4 years ago, and nothing ever happened with it until this this past year. And so I'm really excited to see where that kind of brings me. And that's like a side passion thing that I think that I want to just be able to like work and collab with other artists and inspire other artists to bring out their own creativity as well. That's dope. Yeah. But then of course I have with the action acting with the movement. So that's kind of like the business side. Right. I've got, like I said, I'm a chameleon. So there's different things I'm very passionate about. So that's my business side. And then I have my own physical personal brand, which is Sophie. And that's where all of the movement with the dance background ties into, and just playing large, no, I don't want to say large, I want to play a large female role, a very strong female role to kind of put out there of, especially for people of color, different ethnicities out there, that we can be the main character in whatever play, drama, or whatever role that we want to play and be in. And so that's kind of what I want to really put out there and just try to inspire and motivate people into doing. Like, if you want to be a female dominatrix, that's cool too. There's nothing wrong with that. Or if you want to be a born male, but your pronoun is she or her, that's fine as well. You can still be the number one. You don't have to be the sidekick every single time.
Yeah, for sure. So, I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I've got my two.
How exciting.
My halves, my business and then my artistry.
For sure. I mean, I could definitely relate. That's the story of my life right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally.
So
John Jeffrey.
Like,
is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. It's just like summing it all up.
So the question being, where do we see?
What are you up to right now, and like, where do you see it all going, or where do you want to take it?
Well, I'll go where I want it to go, where I want to take it.
Wait a second, are you copying me right now? Because
say-
I said I was a chameleon, not you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No,
But it's true.
The direction.
I feel like a lot of people can relate to that.
The direction in which I wanted to go, or not wanted to go, but I will create it to go. Growing up in Miami, this Latin background, father's Cuban, mother's from Honduras. So born and raised in Miami, Miami has such an impact on me, which I believe it has such an impact on the world. Miami is so multicultural. It's so diverse. There's just so much. It's a melting pot of so much creativity and cultures. And there's so much that happens within Miami. Not Florida. I don't know about the rest of Florida. But within,
Miami is not Florida.
Yeah. So
a lot of people think that. Anyway.
So just within Miami. Now the direction that I wanted to go is we need our story told. So the influence, the leaders, the roles that I believe our stories haven't been told, and I'm grateful for. I mean, I have many Latinx inspirations growing up, but we need our story to be told. Latins, we need to be the superhero. We don't have our superhero. We're not portrayed on TV and film as the lead role. I can't compare myself growing up. I can't say, oh yeah, I want to be like him, and I've gotten to see, this Latin superhero. We've been kind of in the back burner. We've had these roles of the Latin lover, of the gangster, the street type, the hustler, the pool boy, the Latin pool boy, right? All the stigmatism of that's what the Latin male or female, that's what we're capable of, isn't true, right? I need to see Latin president. I need to see Latin principal, Latin role model, Latin public figure of a positive sense, right? There has to be, why can't there be a Puerto Rican president, right? A Dominican leader. Why can't we have these powerful roles of, okay, there goes the Latin community risen up, and we just have this powerful, like, oh wow, he's Latin and he's leading a positive example. So, my role, and especially being in Hollywood now and just kind of being in that position that you see that a lot, you're like, oh yeah, cool, we're in the back burner.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have this like, leading force of, and again, if you start looking at statistics, the Latinx culture, we're so in Hollywood, we're just like underrepresented. We're there, we've been there since the beginning.
Just seen as the sidekick.
Yeah, but we're on the sidekick.
We're such great psychics.
Yeah. And
We're
it's
not
time.
psychics
And
anymore.
it's time.
So we're not psychics anymore. Moving on.
100%.
No,
So
real.
it's
I
it's
can
time
definitely
to get out
support
of that.
and back it up
100%.
100%.
And I give credit to, you look at something like Tyler Perry, now with the Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, now you think of him, so his studio right now is larger than combined all the studios in Hollywood, right? All the mega studios. And it's like, oh wow, he decided to say, you want to know what? I don't need you guys. Thank you, but I will put my people on the map. I would put my inner circle. I would put anyone that I feel that was neglected or in the back burner. Now you're going to have the spotlight, right? And now we're going to be this driving force. And I'm super inspired by individuals like that. I grew up with John Leguizamo. I got to see John Leguizamo live. And right now, which I think is beautiful, he is creating a Latinx superhero. It's a comic book. I see that, and my mind, I just, it's my mind just, it starts to move in so many directions because I'm like that's amazing. I'm speechless. I look at that and I'm like, that's what we need, right? There has to be a little kid from Honduras that can say, oh, that could be me, right? I could be the one. Yeah. Not saying, oh yeah, now that no one looks like me. I can't, I have no future. No, there has to be that position of saying, like, yeah, I'm, from South America, right? Just that idea of you could be from anywhere in the world, right? That idea of doesn't matter where you're from, you could say, yeah, I could be the superhero. I could be the president. I could be the one, right? I could be this, I could be the actual president, or I could be the president on TV and film, right? Whether it's, real life or just what we're seeing on TV, this representation of that. I think that's where I want to head.
Yeah, and I feel like having more of those opportunities being showcased openly 100%. In the media will encourage more people to feel like that's a realistic opportunity and then train harder and Absolutely. Pursue it as a more serious thing.
I mean, and you also look at, sorry to cut you off, but you look at movies like Black Panther, in which what they thought wouldn't work. Now look at the numbers. Absolutely amazing.
Same with
powerful.
Crazy Rich Asians.
And you look at Crazy Rich Asians. Absolutely. I mean, you write that on paper, no one's going to believe it. They're absolutely not. This is not going to work. And then look at the numbers and look how amazing that film came out in that cast. Our stories need to be told.
Yeah, I definitely think that to achieve something like that, it takes a movement of a lot of people that think commonly how you do and are willing to do moves like the Tyler Perry move,
Absolutely.
And then as more patterns of things like that happen throughout the history of like the next few years, definitely that can happen.
Absolutely.
But it takes a movement. It takes a lot of people thinking alike and being willing to open up those opportunities and prepare, like how like stigma says a white person would prepare
Absolutely.
For the ideal role.
Absolutely. And not be afraid to push the boundaries or not be afraid to bring up those conversations and say like, hey, what about a Latin superhero? Yeah. Right? What about a female superhero? What about that lead role? What about a female president? Yeah. What about pushing those boundaries? So and I believe we have such a powerful story to be told that needs to be portrayed.
For sure. Yeah.
And Miami is definitely a hub for that.
For sure.
Because we have so much talent out here, and a lot of Miamians have really great work ethic, but because, everyone's by the beach, it's always warm, it's beautiful, sometimes we just move slow, and I think some of us just need a little fire lit under the booty. And
Yeah, and I think, having grown up in Puerto Rico, where it's like, literally, it's like growing up in Hawaii, like,
Of course.
it's part of your culture to enjoy life.
Right.
And then be in the moment and just kind of like go with the flow. Like, it's part of the culture. You can't change that.
Right.
The only way to change that is for more people like us to be born and teach that to our kids and them teach it to their, and just like, let's say, have friends, like your whole circle lives by what we believe in,
and
like
showing all the different perspectives.
yeah, like not being okay with chilling all the time.
Yeah.
Chilling only when you need it because you're trying to actually create change in the world. Like it takes a lot of that, like changing your values, changing your culture, changing what you believe in, and not seeing that change as a negative thing, more so like using it as motivation that you're trying to achieve something much bigger than wherever it is that you come from.
I also just feel that you shouldn't be afraid to tell your story, even if you've never seen that before.
100%.
If there's nowhere across the board that you're like, well, this has never been talked about or seen it, don't be afraid to share your truth, right? And that's how I feel with being raised in Miami and kind of doing so many different things and people just not understanding it, but it wasn't up to them to understand. Because I fast forward to my life now, I'm like, oh, perfect. My whole life led up to this moment. And it wasn't for you guys. It was for me. It was for a whole different purpose. So if anyone just kind of says, but what are you doing? It tries to question or bring you down. It's not for you to understand. If someone even questions
It's
and
my
say,
journey.
it's my journey, not your journey.
Yeah, it's true.
Because of that, people, they tend to give their limitation because they weren't able to succeed in whatever. They tend to kind of like just place that upon you. And, well, because I didn't make it, you're not going to make it. Yeah, but you're not me. This is something different. So thank you. But again, you don't understand. You don't know my potential. You don't know my full potential. This life wasn't given for you. So let me do me. And let's see where this story takes me. And again, I encourage every artist out there to not limit. And again, it's the mental thing. It's your own mind, right?
Yeah.
It's that idea of, it's not the resources. It's being resourceful. Something I talk about back home all the time. I know so many people that have incredible resources. And again, that's something I saw and I heard from Tony Robbins that he talks about. It's not the resources. It's about being resourceful. So many of us, and myself included, years ago, I used to think, well, I don't have, and then, I fill in the blank. I don't have that camera. I don't have that phone. I don't have the newest phone.
So many people think like that.
100%. And those are
Yeah.
limitations that it's like, well, we have so many outlets. We have so many resources, free resources. We have so much. If you don't think you have supporters, just throw it out there and see the wave of support that you actually get. Because a lot of times we're so afraid and we have so much doubt and, no one's going to follow me, or, you're afraid to kind of release your ideas or your content out there because it's like, oh, well, what if I don't get the feedback that I actually expected, right? Every professional is once a beginner, right? Every pro was once a rookie. So don't be afraid to take that first step with faith, right? Just, eyes closed and, God, I'm taking the first step and the rest is up to you, and then here goes the next step, and just continue that journey because it's not going to be perfect off the bat. It's not going to be perfect the first time, including this podcast, including when I've done and multiple things that I've done, and still to this moment, it's like, fail, it's okay, here we go, let's continue.
Yep.
So I encourage everyone listening, everyone watching, any artist, don't limit yourself. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to fail. Right? Failing simply means that you're trying. So if someone isn't failing and someone's saying, oh, I haven't failed in the longest, well, you probably haven't tried something new in a very long time.
For sure. Bam, drop the mic. That's it. Man, this episode turned out to be like a whole different thing. Well, I had no expectations, but this is definitely not what I thought was going to happen. Wow. I'm so happy you guys were able to stop by and take the time to be here. It means a lot. Give yourselves a shout out. Where can people find you, follow you, stay tuned to your journey?
Thanks, Sonja, for having us. We appreciate you. So you can find me on social media. Instagram is at SoCookin, no G, so it's So Cook and then IN. Yeah. I'm doing like the cooking dance. And then be sure to follow my brand at Shop Sona, which I brought up before. And on YouTube, I have a link on my personal So Cooking IG page that you can kind of click on. And I'm planning on doing some more stuff on YouTube as well. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
What about you?
For myself,
He's like, don't follow me. Don't.
focus on yourself.
Just
and your
focus
own
on the
journey.
work.
Yes. Check out my site. Go to whoisjohnjeffrey.com. Holla. Social media, you can pretty much find me as whoisjohnjeffrey. So that's a hashtag. That's a @whoisjohnjeffrey. So,
Oh, you got your own hashtag. Okay.
Damn. That's funny because in the last episode with Unmuted, I literally told them you guys should each create your own hashtag because so people can see their work because they don't like showcasing like their stuff that they do for other people, but it's like you can get more clients if they could just see what you've done, even if it's through your clients. Smart.
Absolutely. So we definitely got to plug it in there before we leave. So we're all from, or at one point lived in Miami, but it wasn't until we moved to Los Angeles to LA that something sparked. So to throw it out there, for most people, you can live your whole life or you can live a long time living in one place, confused on why things aren't picking up, and something as simple as a change of location can switch your whole life around.
100%.
It could get to the point, or it could lead to the point that you can come back full circle to that same place, but your mindset has changed. Your something that we were talking about earlier, right? So it's not what's actually happening in front of you; it's your
what you're willing to bring in.
It's your
to what's
perspective
happening.
of how you see it, right?
Yeah,
One
so-
small interaction with a person too can change everything.
You know, if your
For
mindset,
sure.
if the way you're viewing things is one way, you have to understand that that's kind of what's leading to those results. You know, so if your perspective is of the wrong, you know, negative kind of like downer effect, then that's gonna, you know, happen. I know for myself, you know, I wake up every morning and just that morning I'm so grateful to be alive, right? Because tomorrow is not promised. So I try not to overly focus on the future, kind of live in the moment, as cliche as that sounds, appreciate those moments. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, wow, here we are. And again, kind of like saying this whole podcast, a few years ago, we're all in LA together.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We decide to do this one trip to a national park.
Just a random road trip.
Random road trip on Thanksgiving, which right now, today is Black Friday. Yesterday was Thanksgiving 2019.
I didn't plan this way, okay?
A few years ago, and that's the beauty of life, right? A few years ago, we go on this random road trip, Sequoia National Park. That's where I formally meet Sophie, and we do this road trip. We decide to do another road trip because we had so much fun, and now we end up going to Utah, Arizona, this trip to all these
Now we have a thing every
national
New
parks.
Year's. We go somewhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's like tradition now.
That's
Every New Year, we
awesome.
ring in the new year in a new place.
So
That's
Sophie and
awesome.
I give
Since
credit
that
to
trip.
Sonja because we met.
Shout out
and
to
this
Sonja.
whole- This whole relationship happened because of Sonja. She kind of was the
That's crazy,
the
man.
reckoning force.
I can't
that
believe
brought
it.
us together. Yeah.
Damn, yeah. I've always like just followed my heart and my gut. It's like I feel that I want to do this and I would love to do it with people, and you guys just happen to be there in the right time, the right place, and on board with whatever it is that my crazy mind was happening. And then look what
It's
happened.
just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals.
For
and
sure.
then you just never know what's going to lead up until then.
For sure.
Yo, and
Thank
shout
you.
out to all my Miami
Oh, yeah.
experiences. So many friends, so much turbulence that has happened, but the ups and downs. So many friends. I mean, you know who you are. I don't have to sit here and name names, but that didn't understand the journey.
He's winning a
But we
Grammy.
were all,
He's winning a
we were
Grammy
all
right now.
in
This is the
journey
acceptance
together.
speech.
And then we just kind of come back full circle, and mad love to everybody that showed love.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Aw.
Peace in the Middle East. What?
For sure, guys. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube. It'll be up soon, or maybe it's already up by the time you heard this. And make sure that you follow Dance Biz Cafecito on Spotify and Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
If you want to have cafecito with me, if you want to have cafecito with me over a fun conversation, hit me up on that DM.
Yeah. Oh, and if you guys have any cool ideas, I would love to collab with you for Sona.
Yes, there you go. Hit up so good. All right, thanks for tuning in. See you for the next episode. Bye.